Hi guys, Drea from Aloha Plant Life here, and today I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a plant and propagation update. So I am going to be taking you through the propagations that I've done in previous propagation videos and how they're doing now, and then I'm also going to give you an update on some of the plants that have been featured in certain videos, such as my plant rescue video. So my tetrasperma that I discovered was a plug and was having issues with its roots, as well as my Begonia maculata that was also featured in that video, and just a bunch more that have come up in videos in the past. And I am also going to do this a little bit of a also update on my life this week, because I had a freak kind of accident and a pretty bad injury to my back, and I'm feeling kind of down about it. And honestly, this was not the video I was planning on shooting for you guys today, but my back is bugging me so bad, I was like, this is what's happening. And I do need to give you guys an update on these plants anyway, so I will be telling you as we go along kind of what happened this week and kind of how my recovery is going. But let's go ahead and get into the plants first. I'm going to start off with some of the very first propagations that I did in a video that I cringe to go back and look at now, because it was one of my very first videos. You know, first videos are never that great, and you know they're not that great, but it's even less great when you go back and you rewatch them again. But I digress. So I did do a beheading a succulent video as one of my first propagation videos, and we cut off the top of one of my Grapetoveria stems and planted the head of it into my Bonsai Jack's gritty mix that I like to use for my succulents. And this plant has done very well. I did just water it, so it's going to be kind of hard for you guys to see the roots, but it has fully rooted. There are roots all throughout this cup, and you can see how the plant is doing here, looking very nice. Has put on a little bit of growth since I put it in here, but it's a succulent and it's not a super fast growing succulent, so it's not going to be doing too much, but it is fully rooted. It is ready to be sold, and once again I will be selling my propagations with a portion of the proceeds going to benefit a nonprofit in my area. So now that I'm thinking about it, I think this was from my second propagation video. So the next ones we're going to move on to were from the very first one I did, and that featured 3 plants, including my hibiscus. So I did make a date on this bag when I did that propagation video. This plant was propagated initially in water. Once it had roots, I moved it to soil, and I showed that process in that video. And I did mark on this bag when we did it. That was January 29th. And so this plant, I do still keep it covered because these hibiscus, especially since we hadn't moved into spring yet, really needed the extra humidity, but probably here in the next few weeks or so, I'll be able to start uncovering them. But this plant only had like, I think 2 leaves on it when we took it from water into soil, and it definitely is needing a little bit of water right now. So it is looking a little bit limp here, and I'm just feeling it, noticing how dry it is. So I'm gonna give it a nice little drink after this video, but you can see how many leaves it has on it now. Definitely more than 2, and it is getting some very nice variegated ones in there as well. So super excited about that. There's also some new leaves starting up in the center there as well. So this plant is really doing well, and you guys, you can see how tiny of a stem this was to begin with. So this plant's going to take a while to grow into a full hibiscus bush, but that's okay. I knew that going into it. So I'm willing to be patient and wait for it to get to that point. So I probably will not, well, I don't know. I was gonna say I probably won't sell the hibiscus propagations this year. I will probably wait till they get a little bit more mature, but I don't know, maybe people want to buy a little baby one and grow it into an adult. We'll see, I'll think about it, who knows. But yeah, doing great here. Definitely gonna give it a little water after this though. In that same video, we also took a Peperomia prostrata, aka string of turtles, from water into soil, and this is what that guy is looking like right now. And this guy is not fully rooted yet, but that's typical for Peperomia prostratas. They take a little bit longer to fully root because they have those very fine, thin roots. But I am starting to see a lot more new growth on this plant. The vines, the 2 vines that were part of the initial cutting, have definitely gotten longer, but now we've got new vines starting up in here. So let's see if I can get it to where you can see that there are some new vines starting to branch out up in that cup. There's a whole new one coming off right here as well. And so now that we're in spring, this is going to start to really take off, and they're going to climb all over the soil, that surface, and start climbing over. So that's going to be fun to watch that happen. Now this one's not ready to sell yet, but I do have some other string of turtle propagations that I had done previously that are going to be ready to sell. So that will be part of what I will be selling. Oh my goodness, you guys. Part of one of the vines just broke off. Not really sure what just caused that. It's possible that I got it. Oh, I know exactly what caused that. Okay, this is living on one of my propagation carts. I really should give you guys a tour of the propagation carts at some point. If you're interested in that, comment below and let me know and I'll put that video together for you. But anyways, because these were trailing so long, I went to pull it out to water it the other day and I felt one of the vines get stuck. So immediately I was like, oh, stop, reverse, go the opposite direction, carefully pull it out. But apparently I did not do that quick enough because that would explain why this snapped off. But because this is so easy to propagate, all I'm going to do is take this piece that fell off, stick it back down in the top here, and then I'm just going to make sure that I'm keeping the top layer of this soil moist until this piece starts to root. So I'll just be using a spray bottle and just misting it down, like probably once in the morning and once in the evening each day. And yeah, that'll start to root in there and then it'll vine up and help this fill in quicker. So no big deal with this plant that happened, but definitely I need to be more careful taking it off of that cart moving forward. But yeah, let me put this guy aside. In that same video, the third plant that we did take from water to soil was one of my Begonia maculata propagations. And all of my Begonia maculata propagations have taken off. They're all ready to be sold. And here is the one that we did in that video. May not be the one that we did in that video. Apparently I forgot to mark the date on the pot. It was either this one or, give me one second, this one. Either way, it doesn't matter. You can see how crazy both of these have taken off because it definitely was not even half this height when I did that video. And all these new leaves on there, all these gorgeous leaves. Love Begonia maculata leaves with that polka dotted pattern and then the pretty beautiful red backsides to the leaves. Absolutely love it. These plants are just super fast growers. They've really taken off, and I will be giving you an update a little later in this video on the mama plant, because if you'll remember, I did give the mother plant a bit of a root treatment in my plant rescue video in which I had to treat the roots of my Raphidophora tetrasperma, and we will be doing an update on that plant here in a little bit as well. But yeah, these guys are definitely ready to be sold. So happy about that. And I'm gonna set them back aside. The next propagation I wanna give you guys an update on is the one that I kind of spontaneously took during my bedroom plant tour. And that was the cutting that I took off of my Ctenanthe lubbersiana. So I have it back here behind me in water. And as I have mentioned to you in multiple videos, including that bedroom plant tour video, Ctenanthes can be propagated in water because they have a similar growth pattern to Marantas. And so they get nodes like Marantas do. And those are the only two types of prayer plants that you can actually propagate via water. And I did say that I had never actually attempted it with a Ctenanthe before. And so I went ahead and did this in that video. And I'm happy to say that it is starting to develop roots. So let me see if I can get it out of here and get it up there close enough for you to see. So from that node there, can you see those little roots starting? Hopefully it is reading okay. There's not a lot there. You can see them kind of hanging down there. They're just kind of starting. It is taking longer than it does with my Marantas, but I'm pretty sure this plant was patient 0 in the recent spider mite outbreak that I've had. And it wasn't too long after I filmed the bedroom plant tour video that I found the spider mites on this plant. So I immediately came and I checked this cutting, and this cutting had spider mites on it. And so it was very easy to eradicate them off of this because this is not like a ton of plants. So they're gone now, but I think that probably affected how long it took this plant to root. But the good news is it does actually work. We've proven it now that you can propagate Ctenanthes via water. So once this gets enough roots, I will be moving it into soil and then it will be added into my collection that I will be selling. So super happy about that. Gonna set this back aside. And so now I want to move on to my prayer plant propagations that I took during my prayer plant care video. And specifically, these are my Maranta propagations that I kind of showed you how to do in that video, and they have fully rooted in water and I'm ready to move them to soil. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the roots. I'm gonna pot them up, and as I'm doing so, I'm gonna give you a little update on the not so fabulous week that I have had. So let's start with this one because this one actually has the most roots on it. I don't even think I need to take it out of water for you to be able to see all the roots that are in there. but there are a ton of roots in there, more than enough for me to go ahead and move it to soil. And once again, you want to make sure you always have about 2 to 3 inches worth of roots. And I like to make sure, if you can see off the main stems there, there's some like little fine roots branching off. I like to make sure, particularly with the Marantas, that that branching is already happening on the roots before I move it into soil. So I am going to go ahead and be moving, I have another one that's ready to go here as well. I'm going to be moving both of these into 4-inch pots. I do have my tray here to put my pots on. And then I've got my 4-inch pots over here. I've got my soil mix over here. Once again, it's just my 2/3 premium potting mix with some extra drainage in it, 1/3 extra drainage. So I am going to go ahead and get about 1 inch at least of soil in the bottom of this pot before I set propagation in there and start backfilling around it. So while I'm doing that, this week, you guys, I can't even. So the week started out okay. Like Monday was a good, oh, by the way, I consider my week starting on Monday. It's just how my brain works. Monday went okay, and then Tuesday rolls around and it was just kind of a bad day all around. My day job there were issues with this whole project that's going live. And so I started out having to deal with that. And then more and more things were going wrong at work and everybody needed all these things from me. And I was just like really stressed out by the time the end of the day rolled around. And I was signed up to go take a workout class at a place that I like to go work out where a couple of my trainer friends work. And so I was kind of like, this is great. This is going to be a good de-stressor. I'm just going to go work out. I'm going to come back home. I'm going to tend to the plants because I hadn't had a chance to water everybody that needed to be watered yet that day. And so I left to go to this workout class thinking, this is what I need. This is gonna like help get me out of this funk, make me feel better, whatnot. I gotta rinse these roots off real quick before I put it in here. So just a reminder, whenever you're moving from water to soil, make sure you rinse everything off under the water in your kitchen sink or wherever you're doing this, just to make sure if there's any funkiness on there that you've gotten it off. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm just gonna center this, like I said, in here and start backfilling around it. So I got to the workout place and it was interesting because there really weren't as many people there for a Tuesday night class as normally there are. So I was kind of like, huh, where is everybody today? Oh well, and the weather was really nice. So I was like, maybe people just playing hooky because the weather's nice. I don't know. But the place that I work out at, or this particular place, they have kind of station-based workouts. So typically we're indoors the entire time and there's 4 different stations and you just do X number of exercises at one station with some rest in between each move, and then you move on to the next station, you just rotate around. However, when the weather is nice, which as I just mentioned it was on Tuesday, they have an outdoor space with some artificial turf that's kind of like a horseshoe cutout in the back of the building. So they are in kind of a strip shopping situation. And so next door to them is a menswear store, like a suit store. And out back, there's like a horseshoe cutout between the 2 stores, and that's where they have their turf area. And they store some of their equipment out there as well. So because one side of that is open to a parking lot and an alley, they have these giant iron gates, which I'm showing you now. And so these slide open and closed on a track. They've got wheels, so basically they're rolling on that track to open and close, and they obviously padlock that at night so that nobody can come in and like steal anything, right? So normally when we have an outside station, those gates are either completely open or completely closed and locked. The only time that maybe that's not the case is if the menswear store next door is receiving an order of new suits, right? And so they're unloading through their back door, which opens out onto that same space. But even then, those gates just get left open when they're done. I've never been out there when somebody has actually been actively operating the gates until Tuesday. So, like I said, not a lot of people were in the class, so we were all kind of spreading out on stations. There was only 2 of us on a station, and I decided I just wanted to get the outside part done first, because even though it was a nice day, once you're hot and sweaty, it was warm enough that I was like, I don't want to be out here after I'm already hot and sweaty and it be hot, right? So I was like, I'm just going to get the warm outdoor part done first. And another girl came out there with me, and this was only her 2nd time working out at this place. And so we started the workout, everything was fine, but I did notice when we came out that a guy was walking out from the menswear store and through the gate, and I noticed he was carrying something. I don't know what it was. You know, it could have been like he was taking out the trash, something like that. And he basically went through the gate, and I noticed that the gate wasn't all the way open like it normally is if it's being, you know, used or not used, but needing to be open so somebody can go in and out of it. But I didn't really think too much about it, right? So we started doing our moves, our workout. We got through our first 2 moves. We were on a rest period between each move. We get like 15 seconds rest between each move. We were getting ready to do the next move, and the guy starts coming back in between the gates. So the gate was only open about the width of a door, and he starts trying to close the gate. Well, we're about to start our move, and all of a sudden, the girl and I just hear the guy yelling, like screaming, "The gate's coming down, the gate's coming down, move!" And so we were like, wait, what? And then when he screamed move, we were like, okay, I need to move. And both of us like dove forward as far as we could because the gate literally came crashing down. It somehow came off the track, and just the one half, mind you. So let's go back to this photo so I can describe this better. And before I explain this, you'll see in this picture right now that there is like a door in this gate. That was added after this accident happened. This was the fence guy's solution to what happened. Before this, so the day that this incident occurred, both sides of this gate looked like this side here on the right. And this side on the right stayed on track, it stayed upright, it was fine. It was this whole side on the left here that came flat down onto the ground. Now, I said we dove out of the way. We didn't dive out of the way quick enough. I have this plant now potted up. I am going to water it after this, but I'm gonna go ahead and set this one aside and start in on the other prayer plant. I'm gonna rinse it off real quick. Give me a sec. Okay, same process here. So I'm just gonna keep telling you the story because you're probably like, oh my God, quit taking a break and tell me what happened. So as I said, we did not dive out of the way quick enough. I'm gonna throw this picture up one more time so I can explain where I was standing and where the girl was standing. So the girl next to me was standing right in line with where the two gates connect. And both of us were probably about, I'm probably really gonna misjudge this number, but I would say we were at least 6 feet away from the gate, like in front of it towards the building when it came off of the track and fell down. And funny story, we actually were only 2 feet away from the gate on the move we were doing prior to this next move. And there's no reason that we couldn't have stayed exactly where we were to do the next move. Zero. But for some reason, and I am getting goosebumps right now saying it out loud. For some reason, I just had the thought of, you know what? I'm gonna step forward to do this next move. And we did have like a low bench that we had been using for one of the first moves. And I stepped over that bench to do the next move. I can't really tell you why I did it. I think in my brain, I was like, oh, well, there's more space or something like that, but there was plenty of space behind the bench. And it was kind of a last minute decision. I thought about it and I was like, well, you don't really need to. And I was like, I'm just going to. So I stepped over it, and this girl, I think probably because it was only her second class, was probably like, oh, maybe I need to step forward too. So she just followed me and did what I did. And it's a good thing that she did, because if we had not both stepped forward, I probably would not be sitting here having this conversation with you right now. I probably would not have been filming videos for a long time, if ever again. And so once again, can't really speak to why I stepped forward, but glad I did, and glad that she followed me, because it got us further back from the fence. And also, when the fence came down, that bench was now behind us. So it hit the bench, and that prevented it from going completely flat to the ground. However, it still did not miss us on its way down. Because of where she was standing, she just got clipped in the head. And I say just got clipped in the head. She got hit in the head, okay? I at least did not get hit in the head, but she really just got kind of clipped. She did say she blacked out for a very brief second. And then when she came to, she said she was kind of seeing stars, but the gate did not hit her anywhere else. And part of the reason I think that she did not get hit that much is because of the fact that she was standing so close to the edge of that gate. I, on the other hand, let's go back to the picture again, was standing smack dab in line with the middle of the gate. So I was not so lucky. The gate took out my entire back. Primarily on the right side is where the biggest impact was. It basically took the skin off from kind of top to bottom. And so in addition to those wounds, the full impact of the gate ended up hitting, when it came down to its flattest at its hardest, right on my lower right back hip area. And it was incredibly painful. I'm not gonna go through the entire what happened thereafter experience, but I did end up going to the ER. They did imaging, they said nothing was broken, but I have severe musculature damage on that lower right side, and it is massively swollen. It is very painful. Yeah, it's just not been at all fun. And I seriously have no idea how long it's going to take this to fully heal. It's been a very slow going process. And I'm just kind of like not used to not being able to do everything I want to do and need to do. And if you watched my recent repot and chat video, you know that I am still kind of adjusting to living on my own again. And so then being in a situation where I couldn't do everything myself is a little bit awkward. So I've really been having to work this week on asking people for help and being okay with that. But yeah, so it's just been a really frustrating week. I have this one all ready to go now too. I'm gonna set it aside and I have no idea how long this recovery is gonna take. So hopefully this gets better quicker than it has been. But I'm just trying to stay positive and look on the bright side that it could have been a lot worse than it was. Like I said, there weren't that many people there that night, and normally there would have been 4 or 5 of us out there at a time. So this could have been way worse, way worse. So at least there's that. I still just think it's just crazy. I mean, it's just a freak accident. They aren't totally sure what happened, but the working theory is that the guy tugged it too hard when he was pulling it closed at the very end of closing it, and it pulled forward from the track that's behind the wall. Their anchor is behind the wall, and because it came forward, it was able to fall in past the wall. Freak accident, like I said. But yeah, so that's kind of what's been going on with me. But you know what? Everything else is going good. Plants are doing well. And so let's get back to some of the plants here. So since I feel like I was just talking for a really long time, I was gonna pot up as well the cordatum cutting that I did not pot up from my philodendron propagation video. I didn't pot it up in that video because it only had the one root, but it has gotten more roots now. So after this video, I will be moving it into soil. And then I do have a Begonia maculata cutting over here that has been rooting in water that is going to need to get moved into soil here sometime today. I'm not sure I'm going to do this one on video either, but I did want to bring it out because I do want to talk about the Begonia maculata next. So let me, I'm sure you can see her wild self back here. Let me grab her real quick and bring her closer to you guys. Okay, I'm gonna start way back here just so you can see how insane she is. She is crazy. She is my wild thing. I keep referring to her as my wild child because just look at her. She's nuts. The way she grows, she's crazy. But if you were wondering how she has been doing since I gave her that little treatment in that root rescue video, she's doing fine. She has gotten even bigger and crazier and longer, and yeah, she's nutty. You can't even see the top of her because she's just crazy. She's been growing like mad. She's totally fine. We had 0 leaf loss. So yeah, she's doing great, and she's probably ready to be propagated again, if I'm being honest with you. And I think I'm gonna need to relocate her to somewhere else because she's been on the back of my couch. She's just getting so big now. I think she's ready to be a floor plant somewhere. So probably gonna move her maybe somewhere into my bedroom, but I haven't totally figured it out yet. Let me move her back. So yeah, that's what's going on with the Begonia. Totally fine. She wasn't even phased slightly. So moving on to, from that same video, the Raphidophora tetrasperma that I discovered was a plug and had lost all the roots in the plug, and it started to try to root on its own, but was now in a pot that was way too big with way too much soil. So shortly before that, I had propagated that plant for the first time in water. And I honestly can't remember right now, you guys, if I potted that one up from water to soil in a video for you guys. I'm gonna blame the fact that I can't remember on the medicines that I'm taking for the injury situation right now. But I did pot it up into soil sometime around that period, the propagation. So let me show you what the propagation looks like first. So this is the little baby Raphidophora tetrasperma that I propagated from the mother plant, and it only had 2 leaves, these 2 biggest leaves, one here and one here, when I put it into water and when I moved it to soil. And now we've gotten, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 new leaves, and it looks like we're getting ready to put out a 5th one. So doing very well here, and you can see those new leaves come in that lighter color and then they start to get to that darker color. So the propagation is doing absolutely fabulous, and I am not planning on selling this one. My plan has been to replant this one into a pot with the mother plant so that I have more than 1 vine growing at a time. But a lot of you have been asking lately, how is the mother plant doing? So let me go grab the mother plant and explain something that I probably should have explained more thoroughly in that video. Okay, you guys, so this is Mama, and as you'll see when I let go of the top here, Mommy is still a little bit droopy, but this is normal. This is totally normal, even for the amount of time it's been. I will say she Some of my other plants have perked up quicker, but she had very little roots and had been trying to grow those roots on her own after everything in that plug had disappeared. So that's going to take a while for her to perk back up, and I didn't remove any of her foliage. Now, if I had removed some, maybe we would have perked up a little bit quicker because now we've got a more equal ratio of foliage that those tiny amount of roots are having to support, but I really didn't want to have to do that because I know eventually she's going to perk further up. So it is common to see this when you do what we did in that video, depending on how many roots are left. But she's still alive. She's going to be fine. She did lose her 2 oldest leaves right after that, which is also common. They were actually the only 2 unfenestrated leaves that she had. So that's not that bad in my opinion. And I did put this knife in here to kind of help keep her a little bit staked up, just used a little twist tie to attach her to that, but she's gonna be okay, you guys. Look, the leaves are still beautifully green. There's no like brown or yellowing going on or anything like that. She's totally fine. She's just still trying to recuperate. Kind of like me. I kind of feel like I feel, especially in my lower right back hip area right now, like this plant kind of looks a little bit fatigued, a little bit sad, a little bit depressed. But I know I'm going to heal and get back to normal and be fine, and I know that she is too. At this point, if it was gonna go wrong, she'd already be dead. It's been weeks and weeks and weeks. I have to go back and double check the date. I'll flash it up on screen for you that we did that. If she was gonna die, she would have died by now. Trust me. And if she wasn't capable of making a full comeback, I would have lost a lot more leaves than just those 2. And I lost those 2 in the first like 3 days after I did it. So if your plant looks like this, don't stress about it. It will be fine, I promise you. But I'm gonna go put her back. She's gonna be fine, and we will do another follow-up video once she perks up, I promise. Okay, and now for the big one that I know everybody has been waiting for, and I'm like so upset about the whole situation still. So as you know, we talked before about the spider mite outbreak in the house. And let's talk about the notching video because everybody keeps asking me, did your ficuses branch? When are you gonna do the notching follow-up video? So basically the second plants to get spider mites in this house, because Toby is who I figured out was spreading the spider mites to the plants. So he was walking under the Ctenanthe that had it in my bedroom, getting them on him and then going and laying by the ficuses. So shortly after the notching video is when I found out that the ficuses had spider mite, and they live next to each other and he lays like in the middle of them. So it's not surprising that they both got them. So at that point, we weren't really at the point where branching would have started. I mean, on a biological level, things could have been going on for it to start, but I wasn't seeing an actual branch coming out or anything like that yet. And so when I saw spider mites, I of course immediately started treating them for spider mites. And when you're giving a plant a treatment for spider mites, well, let's even back that up a little bit. When they have a pest issue, the odds of something you're trying to do working goes down significantly. And that's why in that notching video, I said you always want to make sure you're starting with a healthy plant. I did start with a healthy plant, but then a few days later, or less than a week later, it became an unhealthy plant because it had pests feeding on it. And so now it's unhealthy and it's trying to figure out how to deal with what's going on. It's not going to necessarily be in the mood to branch, right? And then I'm spraying it with all this stuff, trying to get rid of the pest, which is not helping the issue either. So neither of them has branched. Now, that's not to say that they couldn't still branch now that we have officially gotten rid of the bugs finally. It's only been about a week and a half, I think, since I felt like for sure they were gone. There is a possibility that it just delayed branching and that they could still decide to branch from some of those spots where I had notched them. But there is a possibility that the stress and trauma of everything else that was going on resulted in a failure of them to notch, period. So what I am going to do is I am going to re-notch them in new places. I also am going to experiment with something that I have been thinking about since doing that video, that I'm kind of like, I wonder if that might increase people's success rate. So I did mention in that video about the success rate for notching, and that's why you always want to notch in multiple places, because typically not all of them will actually branch. Maybe some of you have been really lucky and they have all branched, but I've never heard of anybody having success with every single notch that they make. But I had this idea and this thought of, I wonder if this would help increase the percent chance of it happening. So I am going to re-notch them. I am going to record it. I am going to try this new thing that I'm thinking about, and we're going to see what happens. And I'm not going to try the new thing everywhere. I need a control group. This is really a scientific experiment, okay? So I'm going to have control notches where I don't do this new thing, and then I'm going to have some where I do, and we're going to look at which ones potentially branched more quickly, which ones were more successful, and we'll judge from there on whether this new thing is actually really working or not. But once I have done that and filmed that, I'm gonna wait till they actually branch, and then I'm gonna put all of that together in one follow-up video for you so that you can kind of see, yes, branching did work. Did it work better on the ones that I did this new process with, etc., etc. So I am sorry that I have not been able to do that follow-up video for you. I couldn't have anticipated them getting spider mites, and you're all plant parents too. You know how it goes. It's, you know, plants, sometimes you're just like, really? And in this situation, I kind of looked at Toby and was like, really? But I love my plants, I love my Toby, and it's all good. It's just made it a little bit more difficult for me to get that follow-up video for you to show you that it actually does work, but it is coming. So that is basically all of the updates I have for you today. And I am hopefully going to be getting us back to the regular scheduled programming, as it were, that I originally had planned here in about a week. Hopefully this whole situation back here will have healed enough for me to really kind of feel back to myself completely and not be on all these meds to kind of calm down what's going on back there and whatnot. So I'm just happy I'm here and able to get content out to you because, like I said, felt like it was a pretty close call earlier this week, and at least I'm here. So if you guys have not yet hit that like and/or subscribe button down below, please do so. Make sure you're following me on Instagram and Facebook at Aloha Plant Life if you are not already, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next time. Aloha!